Breakfast. Friends, people who are very close and dear to me, Vikram, Anand, Shefali, many of whom have come, my good friend Venkatesh, namesake and a chartered accountant whom I know for the last 30 years. It's been bearing me for 30 years, I should say. Always a great joy to be in this city of Coimbatore. The podium was situated to the left of the dais. I was wondering, how can something be so leftist in this? Then they shifted it to the center. The reason I draw this analogy is probably this is one district which is not afflicted by Nehruvian socialism. In the sense, there is no central government enterprise, PSU, PSC in any large form in the district of Coimbatore. That is why Coimbatore prospered. The prosperity of Coimbatore is because central government, PSU, PSC is not there. The nearest one was in HPF, Hindustan Photo Films in Nilgiris. Anand, you will be surprised at how it worked. It was a black and white film manufacturer, and ND Tiwari wanted to shift it from here to Nainital, where his constituency was there. And since the labor union would not agree to it, he saw to that it did not get color and it collapsed. So even today, after 30 years, we are still finding out the formula to pay the wages for those people who are retired. So that is Nehruvian socialism for you, for which you have escaped. This great district has escaped and it has prospered. And I have been one of the beneficiaries of this prosperity of Coimbatore, Tirupur. Several clients have helped me in my formative years, and they have helped me grow both intellectually and as a professional, for which I will be well indebted. And whenever I come to Coimbatore, I always feel that I am back in my mother's lap, and that is the love and affection Coimbatore has given me. So I thought appropriate for the next few minutes I will speak in Tamil on my book, and then I will shift to the subject proper. When retaining balance came about, I was being interviewed in a Tamil channel. The question was, sir, நீங்க கடமையை பத்தி பேசும்போது இந்த தனி மனிதன் ஒழுக்கமும் தனி மனிதன் கடமையை பத்தி பேசும்போது சிறுபான்மையருக்கு ஏதாவது பிரச்சனை வராது? இது ஒரு டிவி சேனல்ல எனக்கு கேட்கப்பட்ட ஒரு கேள்வி. ஏங்க அவங்களுக்கு ஒரு தாய் இல்லையா, தகப்பன் இல்லையா, நாடு இல்லையா, குழந்தைகள் இல்லையா, அவங்களுக்குன்னு எந்த விதமான பொறுப்பு கிடையாது? இல்ல, நான் கேட்க வேண்டிய கேள்வியோட இதுல இருக்கிறேன், அதனால கேட்கிறேன் அப்படின்னா. அப்போ இன்னொரு கேள்வி அந்த அம்மா கேட்டாங்க, இது ஆங்கிலேயத்தை எழுதின புத்தகம், நூலுக்கும் தமிழ் மக்களுக்கும் என்ன சம்பந்தம் இருக்குன்னு கேட்டாங்க. அந்த சனத்துலதான் ஒருவனுக்கு ஒருத்தி பிறந்தது. ஏன்னா அந்த பதில் ரொம்ப முக்கியமானது. என்னமோ பொருளாதாரம் என்றாலே ஆங்கிலம் படித்தவர்கள், வெளிநாட்டுல இருப்பவர்கள், மெத்த மேதாவிகளுக்கு தான் சொந்தம். பொருளாதாரத்துக்கும் ஒரு தனிப்பட்ட ஒரு சமுதாயத்துக்கோ குடும்பத்திற்கோ இல்லைன்னா ஒழுக்கமா வாழ்ந்து வரும் ஒரு சாதாரண கிரகணிக்கோ எந்த விதமான சம்பந்தம் இல்லை என்று நம்ம மனசுக்குள்ளேயே நம்ம பதத்திக் கொண்டிருக்கிற ஒரு உண்மை. அப்பதான் நான் சொன்னேன், தமிழர்கள் பொருளாதார மேதைகளுக்கு கொடுத்த முக்கியமான ஒரு விஷயம் ஒருவனுக்கு ஒரு. அதுல இருந்தான் கலாச்சாரம் கிடைக்கிறது. அந்த கலாச்சாரத்தின் அடிப்படையில் தான் பொருளாதாரம் கிடைக்கப்பட்டது. ஒருவனுக்கு ஒருத்தி இல்லைன்னா நம்ம எல்லாம் விலங்கு. விலங்குகளுக்கு பொருளாதாரம் கற்றுக் கொடுக்க முடியும். We cannot teach economics to an animal, though they say man is an economic animal. But the reality is, Economics is not grounded for the civilized. It is only for those who create excesses. அத்துமீறி போறவனுக்கு தான் பொருளாதார சித்தாந்தங்களே விதைக்கப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. அது சந்தை பொருளாதாரமா இருக்கட்டும், இல்லைன்னா கால் மார்க்ஸோட சித்தாந்தமா இருக்கட்டும், அரசு ஒரு கரெக்டிவ் ஃபோர்ஸ் சொல்லலாம், சந்தை ஒரு கரெக்டிவ் ஃபோர்ஸ் சொல்லலாம், எது சொன்னாலும் சரி. கரெக்ஷன் எப்ப வருகிறதுனா ஒரு தனி மனிதன் தன்னோட ஒழுக்கத்தை மீறும் போதுதான் வருகிறது. அது எங்கிருந்து மீற ஆரம்பிக்கிறது? கலாச்சாரம் எங்கே போகுது? கலாச்சாரத்தின் அடிப்படை என்ன? இதை நோக்கி நம்ம பயணம் செய்த போதுதான் விலங்குகள் மனிதனாக மாறும் தருணம்னா கலாச்சாரம். அந்த எது கேட்டா அந்த தருணம் ஒருவன் ஒருத்தியை இது விலங்குகளால முடியாது, மனிதனாலதான் முடியும். அப்பதான் civilization was born when the institution of family was formally recognized. என்ன சொல்றாங்க, மனைவியார் துணைவியார் சமீப காலத்தில் தமிழ்ல விழுந்த பிரச்சனை. Maybe, maybe. Luckily, Anand does not understand these Tamil. So he's, blissful of what is happening in Tamil Nadu. But this is what we have reduced our culture to also, not only in lingo. பேச்சுவார்த்தை மூலமாவே மட்டுமல்ல, நம்ம நிஜமாக நம்ம நடைமுறை வாழ்க்கையில் இதுதான் நம்மளோட கலாச்சாரம் என்று ஒரு நினைத்துக் கொள்ள ஒரு சூழ்நிலை உருவாகிறது. நம்ம கலாச்சாரத்தை மறக்கடிக்கிற அளவுக்கு நம்ம தள்ளப்பட்டோம். அதனால பொருளாதாரத்திலிருந்து நம்மளுக்கு இருக்கிற அந்த பிணைப்பு போய்விடுது. தனிமனிதன் ஒழுக்கத்திலிருந்து வருகிற கலாச்சாரம், அந்த கலாச்சாரத்துக்கு தான் பொருளாதாரம். இதைதான் ஒருவனுக்கு ஒருத்தில கூறப்பட்டிருக்கிறது. பல கோணத்திலிருந்து நான் பேசியிருக்கிறேன். Now I will come to the subject of the day, which is revisiting the Constitution. My favorite topic. Long time back, Rajesh, you should know this. I'm not a great favorite of astrology, but I was compelled to give my Jadagam to somebody who looked at it and said it's a good one. But you always start things will prosper. So I'm the first speaker in the first Lit Fest of the Western Ghats Literary Fest, and I'm sure this will prosper. Whether I prosper or not, I'm not sure. So that always, and I used to open the innings for my cricket team. Showing this analogy with I love to bat. So I used to open showing the astrologer's anecdote. Whether I scored 0 or not, invariably my team will win. So this subject has been haunting me for some time, especially as I did my law fairly late in my career, that I understood that we are trying to play cricket with the football. We are trying to create a great nation where the Constitution guarantees that you will never become one. This is the constitutional guarantee. It will keep you, as the great villain Ajit would say, that he would tell his lackey to push the man into liquid oxygen. And tell him, liquid will not allow him to live, oxygen will not allow him to die. So the Constitution is a liquid oxygen analogy. It will not allow you to die it has got its own strengths. It will keep you floating. But it will also have enormous gravitational pull to ensure that you don't become a civilizationally great. So the debate will invariably be around whether Cholas or Hindus, whether the Lord Shivaling inside Bradishwara temple is a Christ in a different form or not. So these type of mundane things is what will occupy our concentration, or it will attract us to nonsense. Probably it is is time for the next 15-20 years and discuss and debate. And I am very glad people like Sai Deepak, there are several scholars who started questioning whether the constitution is the correct document for this country, suitable to the genius of this country. And why do we say this? The constitution was written probably the most troubled times. This is not to take away a wee bit from the constitution that was written in 1946 to 1948, 49. In fact, it is extraordinary efforts of great men. Let us give them all the credit that's possible, and probably given the same situation where they were in, probably many of us could not have done 1 billionth of what they did. So we give them the utmost credit. But to say my grandfather built a house in 1927 and still stay about it in the same house in 2022 when the house is dilapidated, you may have a sentimental value to it. You can have a great respect towards it. But to say that the house is still in the pristine form is fooling ourselves. The country does not deserve a constitution which was written in haste, which was written in the most trying circumstances. Please understand, we had underwent a bloody partition. Sorry for the language, but that was what it is. That we underwent a bloody partition. And people between order, a new order to be formed, and an existing order to be formed, or a new chaos to be introduced in the system, they chose the former. They said, let us continue with the existing system. What was the existing system? The existing system was the 1935 Government of India Act, was rehashed and put in as a constitution. And what was the 1935 Government of India Act? It was done by the British. And what was the 1935 Government of India Act? It was framed on the 1919 Government of India Act. You can go back to see that many of these things have their roots not in independent thinking, but they are rooted to certain things which are definitively genetically colonial. They were not something that is suited to the genius of this country. How could you have otherwise? You know, he may know it very well. Venkatesh knows how we argue in court. And one of the law where we were discussing in a court, usually the sections are numbered in serial form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But any introduction of anything which is not thought about originally comes in a section number, say 21A, 21BD. You know, in income tax there are ZZA. You don't remember the meaning of numbers and alphanumerical serial as not only geniuses like Venkatesh can remember. He is like laughing at his agony. This is the beauty of a chartered accountants. You stab them so many times, and yet they are so much active. Now, the section was relating to something which was the core of that. And it was not numbered simply, but it was an alphanumerical number. So I pointed out to the Lordship that it was not the original thought that this was the core issue. The core issue was supplemented subsequently as an afterthought, and an afterthought cannot be the core thought. Socialism and secularism are an afterthought, which was smuggled into the constitution, which was not there in the original version of the constitution. And enough debate goes on about secularism. I am not going into it. But I will rather focus on socialism, which would have murdered us, and I am using the word advisedly, which would have murdered more Indians than any ideology put together. And it has kept us in abject poverty. And it has kept us behind the committee of nations. All because we have not suited or drafted or fashioned our economic policies to suit the genius. That is why I make the opening remark that the more distant you are from the government, like what Coimbatore is, you prosper. It is not merely as an opening palliative to the Coimbatore. It is an article of faith for me that the more you keep away from the government, you prosper. Now come to the issue called socialism. Now there was a debate somewhere in the 46-47 in the Constituent Assembly, and I should be very careful because Vikram is here. He would otherwise draw upon the exact date and put me down. So I'm sharing about it. But somewhere in the 46, 47, when the Constituent Assembly debate was going on, Nehru wanted to push socialism. And when the socialism was trying to be pushed, Ambedkar, no less, says that the economic policies cannot be cast in iron. And he says we cannot draft an economic policy for our future generation. We should leave it to the generation to take care of their economic policies. In fact, there are Western scholars who believe this should not only be for the economic policy, this must be for the constitution. Constitution must come with a sunset clause also. This is not some Tanjavur culvert where they have said that this is cast in stone for eternity. No. We must also see to that the Constitution has not only a definitive beginning, it has definitely on 26th January 1950, but it should also come with an expiry date. And we should be forced or compelled to redraw the Constitution given our sensibilities, sensitivities as to what should happen, how it should go forward. It is not that we take it as a given. And why do I say this? The Constitution believes, especially Article 12, those of you who have gone through the Constitution, which is the soul of the Constitution, Article 12, Part 3, talks about the state. And the state is held to be omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. So it can arbitrate to people's difference of opinion in a contract. It can come into our bedroom and arbitrate on a husband and wife's issue, help us with the divorce. Now, God forbid, if the new Chief Justice has it, then we could also see a plethora of marital rapes coming in. And you want the state to be an omnipotent one because you believe that the husband and wife are incapable of settling their own issues between themselves in the bedroom. The four corners of the bedroom they can't settle. You believe that they are incapable. And then you believe it is not only that they are incapable, you believe everybody is incapable. And you believe that you will have to interfere in every damn aspect of life. So you think that you will have to run telephones, you have to run airlines, you will have to run this, you have to run that. And everywhere government has to get forms and information and so much of data. And you do precious little. I'll give you a small example. Day after tomorrow, there is one player which I have filed which is coming in Supreme Court. You have seen Hindi movies, or many of you would have elders are here would have seen NGR movies, where after NGR bashes us the villain, everything is over. The police comes and says, "Koi hilla nahi." Okay? I don't know what they were doing for the last 15 reels. The police would not know the biggest villain in town. The police would accept the hero who knows him and bashes him. And this is a common Hindi story. RBI is like that policeman. Vijay Mallya runs away. Nirav Modi runs away. So many scams happen now. This Gujarat shipbuilding of 22,000 crores happened. 10,000. Nowadays, less than 10,000 crores, we don't call it a scam. It's called pickpocket. Okay. Now the banks know, the Economic Times know, every channel knows. The last fellow to know it is RBI. Banks collapsed. Yes, bank collapsed. Till it collapsed, everything was shut and the Buddha locked the key and threw it into the gutter. RBI did not know. Do you know that the banks file 240 odd returns? Some on daily basis, some on weekly basis, quarterly basis, monthly basis, annual basis, half-yearly basis, biannual basis. Totally 240 odd returns are filed, and sometimes RBI says file 10 copies electronically. RBI is capable that such geniuses are working in RBI. Okay. But despite all these things, RBI would not know that a bank has collapsed, forget a company has collapsed. RBI's people are sitting on the board of certain banks. And those people on those companies are sitting on the large credit dispersal committee. Lakshmi Vilas Bank collapsed. And it was collapsing. It was not that a flight was going at 38,000 feet and some missile hit it and it blew up. No, it came to 30, 20, 16, 15, and then it crashed. So for the last 8 years, it was coming down. Everybody knew about it, except that. The point I'm making is that you don't have the wherewithal and your bandwidth to do certain things. This is one dimension. This is the practical dimension. But the larger ideological dimension is something more serious that I would love you to figure it out. And probably this is the core of the issue. Much of the Western Constitution believes or are founded in the Christian theory of Adam and Eve. And Christian belief, no man is born otherwise than a sinner. Even the Pope is a born sinner. And the redemption is only by accepting Christ. That's the belief, theological belief. Nobody can doubt, nobody should doubt. It's been respected. But people, whether they are Richard Dawkins, whether it is Karl Marx, Thomas Hobbes, whether it is any of these scientists, Freud, according to a is by your own self. Whereas the redemption of self is by an external agent from the Western world. So I am putting it in a very crude but in a binary form for easy understanding. And if the self is to be cleansed, or self is to be purified, or self is to be elevated, or self is to be demoted, we believe it is in your hands. We do not believe that an external agent, Bhagavad Gita says the same thing. You are the cause of your upliftment, you are the cause of your fall. I don't want to be so philosophical, I want to be only drawing the difference in which we as a civilization are rooted. And the biggest challenge comes from writing a constitution in English and making your judges understand what it is in your day-to-day requirements. Let me take a small example, what we did in Madras High Court. Now, there was a judge who was from Bengal. Very nice judge, very respected judge. But I had to stand before him and make him understand what is agmas. Now, how do you explain agamas to a judge in a court hall in 30 seconds? Anand probably cannot do it in times now. And you see the hydraulic pressure you are putting on it. So I had to tell him, Milords, in Madras High Court, you file with pages A4. In Calcutta High Court, you do it in pages A3. In Madras, you can't file A3. In Calcutta, you can't file A3. Likewise, every temple has got an agama, which prescribes the rules under which the temple is, consecrated. The idols and deities are given puja, the daily puja, the naivedyam, the type of naivedyam. All these are prescribed in the agamas. That I understood. Can you make people understand denomination? The word denomination occurs in Article 25 and 26. We had to wait till 1980s when the Hindi version of the Constitution was authentically released, 40 years later, and that is where denomination became Sampradaya. And Sampradaya, even the two scholars before me, Anand and Vikram will bear, is not denomination, it will be tradition. If you retranslate it back into English. Now, how do you explain the word denomination is generic to Christendom. Where you have Seventh-day Adventists, the Protestants, the Anabaptists, so many are denominations of a church, like a 10 rupee, a 50 rupee, a 100 rupee is a denomination of the rupee. We have the rupee in different forms. That is denomination. But Sampradaya is entirely different. You can't say 10 rupee as the same Sampradaya as 50 rupees. It would look foolish. But this is where we are compelled to. So you see the pitch at which we are playing. That we are given a football to play cricket. And that is why we are again and again finding it very difficult, even when we go to the courts, even when we push ourselves to various courts to explain our civilizational roots. Now, every country wants to go back to its civilizational roots, except, of course, the communists, for obvious reasons, who believe that it is their duty to, press the reset button every now and then in a computer and create an unformatted hard disk. This penchant to create an unformatted hard disk led even the communists in China to dig up the grave of Confucius. And this is what they did in 1950s. The literature and artifacts of the Ming dynasty, which probably were there between the 1350s and 1750s, 300 years, completely annihilated. And this is where I think we owe a great salute to our forefathers, because we created Tamil Thai. If there were no godliness associated with Tamil, we would have become the Chinese. What Chinese did not foresee was to create Chinese Thai. If there were a Chinese God, the communists would not have dared to touch the Chinese heritage linked to their past. It is mercifully that we have created Tamil Thai and Tamil Kadavul. It is a very peculiar thing. Kartikeyan is secular, but Shiva is communal. Now we try to draw this type of distinction. Shaivism is acceptable, Vaishnavism is communal. Next thing is going to come, mark my words. So these type of distinctions that are happening in the real world is primarily because we have not declared ourselves to be a civilization state. There is no need to declare yourself a socialist, secular, justice, fraternity, equality, equity. All this pradalanga need not be there. Simply declare yourself as a dharmic state. And dharma being your ultimate benchmark will take care of all the inequalities. And of course, addressing of inequality is to several means. The methodology can be different. But you need not have to link yourself to certain Western ideas and Western ideologies. You want to give equity, and you also want to have equality. Both are impossible. If you want to give equity, give everybody 50 marks. Or rather, equality, you give 50 marks to every student in a class and say everybody is 50. But you want to do equity, judge everybody by the mark sheet that you have written. Then answer sheet they have written, put the marks. That's possible. But if you want equity, you want equality, because we want to borrow something from the French, we borrow something from the German, we borrow something from the Italian. We have borrowed too much from the Italian. So you take so many things and then make an appeal out of it without realizing what is it that is in store. And what it has done, as Nehru said, Nehru, when he was asked to look at the constitution, makes this very important speech in the Constituent Assembly debate. He says, look at Ireland, look at France, look at Italy. He had a foresight to look at Italy. And never did he say, look at Bharat. This was a 5,000-year-old, 8,000-year-old civilization which had managed its affairs, good, bad, at least second. But don't you think that the framework of the constitution should have looked internally and not looked like a deracinated, what is that? Xerox shop? This student Xerox, where we Xerox from the constitution of the rest of the world, rather than something germane in this. And if it were so, we would have written it Sanskrit, in Hindi, or Tamil, or Telugu. We would not have written it in English. The moment we started writing in English, we started getting completely distanced from the subject. And we ended up with a European product and probably a left-hand drive. We did not get a product that we wanted. One of them was socialism. And probably here we are seeing people from different parts of the country. People who speak different languages, come from different backgrounds, different communities. But one word that will probably, or one sloka from Gita which will unite all of us is Karmanya Malika Sima. And we believe in our own karma. And you can test it out with anybody across the country. And they will invariably resonate with your ideas. They will say, look, we are understanding what you're saying. It may be a Gujarati, it may be a Bengali, it may be a Kashmiri, it may be a person even in the Northeast. But this, unfortunately, gives primacy to individual liberty as well as individual responsibility. The primacy is of individual responsibility. You spoke about corporate social responsibility in your opening remarks. I immediately tweeted, corporate social responsibility is secular, individual social responsibility is communal. Because the word karma or duty or responsibility is missing in part 3 of the Constitution. This may suit the Western Constitution, the American Constitution. The American Constitution, if you read the Federalist Papers, where great people like Madison and others have labored on what should be the contours of the American Constitution, they have rightly drawn inspiration from the Roman Constitution or the Roman Empire, and they believe that America is the remnant of the 20th century or 21st century replica of the Roman Empire. They can believe. But can we say, drawing reference to the American Constitution or the British Constitution or the French Constitution, say that we are also remnants of the Roman Empire? I shudder to think that this is what is happening. And this is what is creating the confusion within ourselves. We are a country who are in search of an identity. And when we talk of being Indians, we talk about our rights. The moment we talk and say that we are Bharatiyas, we believe we have a responsibility. So we are like onion, Vikram in Onion, who is suffering from multiple personality disorder. At times when we are Indians, we are so articulate in our rights. We are so conscious about our rights. We have taken rights to such great extent thanks to our Supreme Court. There are 1890 rights And some of the rights are so detailed and exhaustive, like say right to privacy in Kutaswamy. So also brilliantly articulated. But it has been taken to another level by Justice Chandrachud in Justice Shine case, Joseph Shine case, where he says that infidelity must also be a fundamental right. And I hope that the parliament does not take him seriously to legislate it into the constitution. Article 14 does not, I don't know, it's amended, or 15 is not amended to say that you have a right to be infidel. And when justices quote Nivedita Menon in their judgment, Anand, you and I would not read it in the darkest part of our home. Is being flouted as something that is germane to the constitutional morality. To be immoral is constitutionally moral. Look at the paradox that we are facing and this challenge that we are facing civilization. ஒருவனுக்கு ஒருத்தியோட இருந்தீங்கன்னா you are actually doing a great disservice to the constitution. Not my words, words of the lordship. Say this is your right. What is the duty? Doesn't have a husband a duty towards his wife to be faithful, to be fidel? Isn't fidelity part of our day-to-day lifestyle? When I say I will come at 9 o'clock, I expect to be here at 9 o'clock. This is the basic trust that we do it. Isn't it the society is built on these type of virtues? Isn't all these are reduced to transactional values and transactional computations? That is why Francis Fukuyama in his book, The Trust, puts it brilliantly that when you want to deal with, say, two businessmen, Americans will come with 2 truckloads of lawyers. But you want to deal with Japanese, they will say, you come, we will come, we both will sit down and we will do it. Because actually there was, my first client was one governor from Europe. He taught me this very important thing. So he wanted to sign a contract and like a fresher, to impress your client, I drafted a huge contract and then to him and said, sir, this is what we have to sign. He said, எழுத்து யோகியனுக்கு அயோக்கியனுக்கு தேவையில்லை. Very simple, he threw it out. Yogya is going to live by his word. Ayogya is going to violate this contract, whatever you do. So why did you do this? This was a very important lesson I learned when my mustache started coming out. That could be invested also. So this is what Francis Fukuyama captures in The Trust. And he says the Eastern world does more of its businesses by negotiation, by believing in businessmen. There is Japan's prosperity. Japan is also a prosperous country. Per capita, lawyers, I think there are 25,000 lawyers in Japan. Only. 8 or 10 lakh lawyers in India. Not counting the lawyers that we have exported from India. So see the country is modeled on everything is done in paper. And in fact, some of this, again, Venkatesh should bear me out. There are contracts which say will not apply to this force majeure. Because something happens. What is force majeure? When there is excessive rain. How do you calculate excessive rain? 3 pages. Rain extends more than 500 millimeter over a period of 6 months, or 250 millimeter in 3 months, or 100 millimeter in a day, or 50 millimeter within an hour. No, these type of definitions are given to say that force majeure clause will actually. And despite all these things, you will see most of the contracts coming to the court. Why? Because Yogya and Ayogya is there. The virtues of trusts are this. And that is what we have reduced to with the parent documentation of the country, which is the Constitution. Instead of leveraging on our civilizational goodliness, of a civilization that has, yes, it is a wounded civilization, it has gone through trauma, it has been having so much of problems, but yet we are a civilization. No other civilization has survived 5,000 years of this type of pattern. Our Ramayana is still the same Ramayana. You said your friend is written 7 volumes. That 7 volumes is not different. It is the same Ramayana, Rama goes to Lanka to redeem Sita, same thing. Which was there in Valmiki Ramayana, which was there in Kamba Ramayana. Probably there may be some poetic licenses here and there, but the structure, the basic structure is one and the same. The Mahabharata is the same, our art, our culture, our manner of conducting pujas. Every temple which has traditions have continued to hold on to it despite 5,000 years, at least 1,000 years of barbaric interventions. We are a proud civilization. We need to protect it. Where is it that it protects? In fact, there is a ministry of culture in the center. There is no ministry of civilization. Culture is what we are today. Civilization is what we were. Actually, we need to protect. Otherwise, we don't have to worry about these things. Otherwise, we don't have to go to Jnanavapi and do a carbon dating test to find out whether there is a shivling there or not. Shivling there exists, everybody knows, because every Hindu knows for a fact that it exists. Only people who don't know is the judges. Or they pretend not to know it. And if you see the photographs, it is very clear that it is a shivling. You don't have to do a carbon dating. Carbon dating is done probably to know the date. But a shivling is the carbon dating. Shivling is a shivling. You have to see it, believe it. You can say, I don't believe in shivling. That's entirely your problem. But we require a civilizational protection. The least that we need is to do a civilizational ministry. That takes care of our civilization at the least. But the idea is larger. We need to transplant or do away with this constitution in substantial issues that are corrosive to the civilizational dimensions. And we have to bring about what they call as a civilizational issue, dharmic issue. I am not using the word Hindu. Please understand, there is nothing called Hindu here. Hindu is an amalgam of several philosophies. Your philosophy is as valid as my philosophy. And it is what Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan in his book writes. The first chapter is so brilliant. He says there was so much endowment in this country. We were endowed with so much of natural resources that we could indulge in several philosophies. And that is how India became a land of philosophies. And each philosophy is as valid as the other. And we have to retake and retain whatever is left, and regain whatever has been destroyed. For that, we can't have this constitution which says that places of worship act will come into play and we will not go back beyond 1947 August 15th. There are some people who have challenged it. But why is it that we have to go and prove the unconstitutionality of an act? It should be embedded in the constitution that this is a civilizational state and will do whatever it takes to ensure that the civilizational glory is preserved and restored. That is what is our fundamental right, and I think it must be a beginning the next 25 years. I have dedicated that we will see to that the constitution is being rewritten and at least gets the core civilizational values. That will probably coincide with the 2047, the 100th year of our independence. It is no shame in giving up this constitution. Not that it has been bad. It is a Kam Chalao constitution. It is an interim arrangement. It is a temporary shed. It was like the temporary shed in which Ram Lalla was placed between 1993 and say 2023. But that doesn't become the Ram Mandir. The Ram Mandir is being built. And that is what we owe to our next generation. To hand over a better constitution, a bigger constitution. When I say bigger constitution, this doesn't mean words. We have a constitution which is perhaps the largest, 150,000 words as compared to 8,000 words in the American constitution. But yet, there are so many things that have been detailed, and we got so much into a clerical exercise rather than an intellectual exercise of trying to figure out what should be the ideal one in terms of suiting this country. The word dharma is absent, the word civilization is absent, the word family is absent. These are things that will put us in good stead. Now, whether these should be there or not can be entirely debated, redebated all over the city. You may still come to the conclusion this constitution is the best. I can see that also. But for that, we can't have a closed mind and say that this is like Karl Marx book, that now you can't add a comma or a delete a full stop. Let us not reduce the constitution into some sort of holy book interpreted by a holy prophet, where we can't add or delete it. These are living, this gives life to the country, life to our society. It is a too precious a document that it should be left untouched for the future generation. I only hope that the audience here will join in this endeavor. So thank you all for a very patient listening. And thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing an insightful information with us. Now I request Mr. R. Sundar, the Chief Advisor of TheVerandah to present the memento and a hampers from Advitya Herbals and Girinarity to Sri M.R. Venkatesh.
The problem is growing in every. What about this Hindu? Is there any quick change? We have to track on YouTube so we keep on debating in the biggest.
See, the warrior for the temple movement, Ramesh, is here. I think you should direct this question against Ramesh, not to me. I am his humble soldier. I am dedicated. I told him also that if you ask me to get a Xerox done, I will get it done. If you want to fix a file, I will fix a file. Or you want me to argue in the courts, I will do it. I have given that, blank check to him as far as I am concerned personally in the temple. I think you should better direct to him. But my answer to it on a very limited scale is, we are not reacting. The more you don't react, people keep flogging you for what you get. I believe that the renaissance of Tamil Nadu in a political manner will happen only when Hindus take to large numbers to the temples. And when I say this, that is why I own our temple movement Arunachal. And I will take 1 minute here. The issue is we go to the temples as individuals. And this is what the government wants. It wants an atomized individual. And see, government doesn't recognize society, family, as I told you. It recognizes only individuals. It wants you to come to the temple as Vikram Sampath or somebody. Have your prayer to the Lord. I want this done. As if you are giving some application to the Lord. Move from the temple within 15-20 minutes. So the parking spaces are kept filled. Your approaches are kept narrow, and so that you are always on a constant pressure of not spending time in the temple, so you want to move it to the temple. Unless we start occupying temple, unless we go in hundreds of people, and that is what some of us have done very openly in Mylapore on 31st August, for which an FIR has been charged against several of us. For the first time, so you must understand where secularism is taking us. If you go to the temple, you may probably have the risk of getting an FIR. So that is where it is. So the next one I went to Vadapani, I have not got an FIR, so I'm lucky enough not to get an FIR the second time. But the fact of the matter is, this is the corrosive regime which you are in. Now you have two choices. You keep quiet, fight back. Bhagavad Gita would say 5 lakh.
Thank you.